Episode 16 with a very, very dear friend of mine, Leg Day. We kind of go a little bit farther back, kind of met during the old Open Division days with the young Ham Tornado, who's now casting in NA, and you guys were a bit of a duo. You know, how are things? How's Contenders Europe and Korea? Congratulations on you know, grabbing those two gigs up. How are things?
Those are very busy, and also they take place at like diametrically opposite time zones. So when I'm here, I'm starting 9 p.m. for Contenders Europe broadcast, which is nice, going till 1 a.m. So my sleep pattern has like shifts, so I'm not tired at 1 a.m. And then Korean Contenders starts at like 11 or 12 here, so then I've got to take like 2 days to just shift my sleep pattern back to where I can do Korea, and then I'll go back to Europe time zone. So I'm all over the place, and that's fun.
You're a busy
I'm
boy,
managing
huh?
to spend a lot of time just going to the gym and stuff, because I don't really do that much while I'm here. The internet connection is a little bit for competitive gaming. I don't want to go into conks. I'm going to DC and just keep losing 50 SR, and I don't have the SR to lose right now. I'm in by a thread.
Not trying to get banned, you know. Blizzard doesn't pull any punches at that, so you disconnect one too many times.
I've been banned so much. I'm a bad boy. I just DC for like 2 seconds. At like the start of the game, it's like, no, we caught you.
No SR for you. Oh, you're good. You're good. Now, you mentioned kind of Kiev, and I believe that's where you guys are kind of stationed for both of the broadcasts. I've heard from talking to each of the individual casters in EU, the atmosphere in Kiev is very interesting. So I wanted to kind of get some of your fondest memories of Kiev, or maybe an interesting story of your time in the Ukraine. Any interesting
someone tried to punch Blank.
I do remember hearing, was it Blank that I heard that from? I think so. He like looked at him and like...
Blank is a large individual.
Yes.
So when people see Blank, they're like, that's someone I've got to prove myself against. so people just go for him. It's I don't know, does he look punchable? I think Blank looks very friendly.
Has a punchable face. Interesting. I think so. I think he looks, you know, pretty emotive. He has some interesting facial expressions. I think there was a game yesterday. Was it
the Big C9?
Yeah, just his look on his face, just like the cheeky
Gigantic going like, you're gonna touch, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna touch. You're not gonna touch.
Okay, nice.
That's awkward. We had like 2 surprised Pikachus in the casting.
Yeah. What's up with the bag salad? I saw that posted on Twitter recently as well.
The bag salad right now. Blank's girlfriend is here staying with us, because obviously we're here for 2 months at a time, so it's pretty hard. I went home for a week, and Blank's girlfriend Riley's here for just over a week, and she's helping us out in the whole healthy living sense. She's a lot more accomplished a chef than Blank or I are, so she's remedied the bag salad into an actual salad. And oh man, I'm gonna let you in on
I got
a little bit of personal information. I'm not always the happiest to be in Kiev, because I get really bad travel anxiety. So being here for 2 months was not good for me, especially like leaving my girlfriend at home and stuff. Super tough. And like when it came to everything mounting up on me once I was here, like it was super stressful. And the straw that broke the camel's back and like made me break down crying on a call to my girlfriend was that our apartment's got this scuffed ass hob. You guys might have seen my tweet of me lighting it with spaghetti, because it doesn't have an ignition. But that just broke me, dude, because I didn't know the hob was scuffed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get up. Everything's going to be good. I'm going to make my healthy breakfast of some scrambled eggs. I break the eggs into a bowl. I whip them up. I'm like, yes, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to start healthy living here in Kiev. Put them in the pan. Turn on the ignition.
Nothing.
Or turn on the gas. It's just gas. I'm like... hello?
Maybe the ignitions, but like, let me try another burner. You know, let me see if there's another one.
I just like trying them all, and it's like, this doesn't have a. Oh, this is like 70s as fuck, dude. And that just broke my back, because I was like, I'm gonna have a healthy lifestyle here.
Yep.
And just one more thing that fucked up just broke me.
It's always those little things, you know. It's always those little things. You hold the big things, and you can maintain those. You know, it might be a tough blow when it hits, but we can hold those, right? We can hold all those L's, right? You know, okay, travel's rough. We don't like doing it. We can manage though. Yeah. But it's those tiny little annoyances day after day after day. That's the killer. That's, you know,
they just take the toll.
They really do. They really do. I definitely, you know, can align with you there. But you mentioned home, right? And home is where everything starts. And what isn't talked about.
As many people are keenly aware of my bedroom view.
I've heard many stories from your lovely girlfriend Gio of having her nag you to death to make your bed. Like, please make your bed.
Ham nagged me to make my bed.
So yes,
like when we were doing Nexus, just like that.
Yeah,
make your bed before we go.
So it's always been, you know, a very homely bedroom cast, you know, grassroots, and you know, you and Ham in particular, and a lot of the BGG crew, a lot of that grassroots effort. But how did you even get into esports? You know, this is something that gaming has been more acceptable over the years, and it's been something that, you know, we've all used in different assets, entertainment, you know, escapism, whatever it might be. How did you find yourself getting into the competitive side of things? Was there a game that you kind of latched on to? You know, where were your beginnings?
When it came to competitive play, it probably came from me playing the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Okay.
I got like
some hyper.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I played so much of it. And I got super competitive into that because I was fucking good at that game. As pathetic as it sounds, I was so fucking good at Star Wars: The Old Republic. And yeah, I played so much competitive PvP. But obviously there was like, who wants to watch this? There's not like a spectator client. It's not even a popular game. So there's not like an actual competitive scene. It's just me fucking pub stomping. And that's how far the competitive scene for that went. And obviously Overwatch managed to draw me in as an MMO player because like for the last time I played FPS was like Call of Duty on the Xbox with all my mates. And I was like, oh, but I understand tanking. This is like, my brain is hardwired for this. I've been doing this for years and I'm fucking good at it. So I get on Reinhardt, I'm like, I intrinsically understand what I've got to do here. And I think at the start of Overwatch, that really gave me an advantage over a lot of people who just like came in from other FPSs because they like didn't understand roles as well as me.
Right.
Like if I started playing Overwatch now, I probably never would have got to top 500. I'd probably just be in Diamond because like the base level of the Overwatch player, the understanding they have of the sort of like ways that even just classes work and how compositions work is so much more advanced now than when we all started playing in that open beta.
Definitely.
And luckily didn't get into the closed beta. Obviously Blizzard not happy with someone who was a hardcore streamer of a rival MMO.
No, I hear you on that. There's always somebody, you know, in your core friend group that always seems to get the beta keys. And I was luckily, you know, I was always the odd guy out, the black sheep. You know, I didn't get Hearthstone, didn't get StarCraft 2. I had to beg a friend of mine to give me StarCraft 2, their beta, and I was the one that actually got the Overwatch closed beta. So I was like, oh yes, finally something.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, were you, when I met you in Open Division, I think like season 1 of like 2017, right? I think I'm remembering that correctly. Were you not on a team?
I was competing.
Yes.
I was.
Okay.
I was currently set. I finished 7-3, which used to be an achievement, by the way.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that was when like 8-2 would guarantee you playoffs, and some 7-3 teams would get there. I was on a team called Wu Tank Clan.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I was the team captain and, of course, the main tank. But at that point, I feel slightly bad because I hadn't told my team, but I'd been contacted to cast Contenders. So if they got to playoffs, I would have had to have told them. So I can't play. It's technically a conflict of interest.
Gotta go. Adios.
I just gotta yeet my way out of here.
Yeah. So you brought that up. I'm like, oh, I remember him, you know, talking about scrimming and this and the other thing, and I thought you were a pretty high rated player. So yeah, I you know, Do you kind of keep in contact with the old Wu-Tank boys? Are we...
Yeah, man. I've casted a fair couple of games from my new guys. And you might have heard of Dopamine from EU Tier 3. They became a very well-known team. Mezek, their main tank, used to be my off-tank. We used to play Quick Play together a lot as well.
Okay.
That was where a lot of my actual Overwatch broadcasting came from. Because I used to be a Star Wars Old Republic streamer. Like, I was actually pretty famous there because I used to talk mad trash. People would just come to my stream so they could hear what shit I was saying about them. Because the entire draw of my stream was like that I could play the game so absentmindedly I just spent all my time coming up with insults for people when they were just being fucking chimps. And that's where I just ended up throwing myself into streaming because like that was my way of socializing at the time because I didn't like going outside. I took a really bad turn in terms of mental health just after I started streaming Star Wars Old Republic. My parents broke up because my mum came out as gay, which was pretty late, but nice. It's really nice that she's actually living her own life now as she was born. So we're just support her in that. But like it took a real toll on my mental health for a while. I didn't want to go anywhere. Didn't want to go outside. Didn't really want to see anyone. So like online socialization became the sort of a saving grace for me. And I found like for a while, like a new family in my stream and my viewers. So I really threw myself into broadcasting and really sort of like trained myself to communicate with an audience in a sort of like compelling and emotive way. And I think that really was what drew me towards going to casting in Overwatch, especially because like my first actual esport I ever saw was Overwatch. Just like the Gosu Weeklies. The second that I like started playing the game, like I just hardcore researched on how to play. And when you research how to play Overwatch, it's like, top 10 players. Look at Shawfall from Cloud9. And I just went to see the Gosu Weeklies and stuff and like the monthly melees. And I just religiously watched those. I probably watched like 60 to 70 hours of YouTube videos of Gosu Weeklies.
So you got in early. So like we're kind of really starting to get into the flood of like new Overwatch League fans, and that's totally cool. You know, again, I'm not a hipster here. You know, I want more people to like what I like because it's more fun, and I get to talk to more people and share that passion. That's really cool for me.
I'm hyper glad that they've come in with newer spectator features as well.
Yes, back in the day.
Go through the mud, dude.
Yep. It's
that was when you can't sell Overwatch esports to anyone because they just tune in and they're like,
what's happening?
Is going on?
We don't even have a kill feed at this point.
We don't have a kill feed.
I don't even know what's happening. I think somebody just got the kill. I don't know who, but somebody killed somebody. I know that much because the portrait's grayed out.
Yeah.
These square boxes, these big old rectangle boxes.
But they have them at the bottom as well. That was so bad.
Oh, that's
terrible.
An old shot. That's like 2016. They had
Sorry, Jeff. It wasn't great. I'm so glad you guys iterated on that.
I will say the bottom was interesting because it's not normally where you look, and it was kind of clean. If they could have made it work, it would have been like, oh, okay, this is different. It's again a little counterintuitive to look at the bottom of your screen instead of like the top. Usually, maybe a mini map usually placed at the bottom but most of the time, like most of the information is placed at the top of your screen.
When things are at the bottom, it was also confusing because that's often where you'd look for like ultimates as well.
Sure.
And like health bar and ammo. So you're like scanning across the bottom of the screen, whereas at the moment, like because you can scan like both top parts of the screen and you like look towards the ultimate as well, you naturally cross your gaze over the actual gameplay, so you're staying informed, even if it's just in like microseconds that you glimpse.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's you're a bit of an oldie when it comes to Overwatch, the Overwatch community. You got in early, huh? Any favorite teams from the old Gosu gamers? Any good shouts? Any
Vivi's Adventure was a little bit newer. I think they were like 2017, but I really did like Vivi's Adventure. Obviously, the two big ones are Envious and Cloud9, and being an EU boy, I'm obviously envious because fucking Yanks trying to take them off to Charlotte or wherever it was. Somewhere, where do they go?
North Carolina, yeah.
Team house? We're like, nah, they're still EU. You can take them physically, but they're still EU. I was a big fan of Debet back in the day as well. He was a big influence on my Ryan play. Like he was really like a pioneer in shield management for Reinhardt's, and like not just being the dumbass who holds a rectangle when you're not swinging. Like you can actually just stand as a Reinhardt and like constantly be able to out shield the enemy Rein, who's just like, oh, I guess I have to play main tank. I want to play Genji, but here we are. I'll just hold right click.
Would you? And again, I don't find. Do I find myself asking this question a lot? I think it's more applicable to you because you are high rated and you've played within, you know, a competitive team at a, you know, pretty high level, I'd say. You know, narrowly missing trials or at least, you know, open division playoffs is pretty respectable, I'd say.
Well, that said, that first trials season was absolutely stacked. We had Cruz in there, we had Angry Titans, we had Windstrike.
People don't remember, like, open division, especially at the beginning of like the Contenders, like genesis, like just the idea of Contenders kind of being implemented and trying to seed out these teams that weren't already like just invited.
Contenders Mark II, because we had
season 0 and then like
and season 0.2.
Yeah.
Then we had Genji emblem, Genji logo Contenders,
which is version 2.0.
Yeah.
In that same sense, would you ever? Is there a competitive itch that you might scratch with like coaching, or is there like a drive to maybe even play again? Is that ever a question?
I'd love to coach and I'd love to play. Both of those are very interesting to me. Coaching, I feel, has a very unique leadership aspect to it, which I think being a team captain somewhat qualified me for. But I don't think that it would be in my best interest as a caster to do so, because it obviously is a conflict of interest when like, hey, so I've got insight into these teams in a pretty deep way. Yeah. Now I'm just gonna go and spread that to the world.
That's the master plan, though. You know, you get in as a caster, you're the nice guy, and then you turn heel, and you got all these pages of notes on these guys. You know, oh, if you tilt them real hard, the whole team falls apart. You know.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it can be a real qualifying factor for some casters, like Val's from Square One is obviously a pretty good color caster, and Jake as a player, even though he's not a coach, also came in and was highly respected in his opinion. Same with Avast, because they've had the experience of being there, whereas for a lot of casters we're sort of like from the outside looking in.
Definitely. Now, in that same, you know, in the multiverse, there is a leg day that maybe does pursue coaching. So why is it in this universe you decided to go with casting? Why could you dive into that a little bit more?
I think luck and timing.
Okay.
Because I really enjoy casting. Obviously, like I'd say I'm kind of a born showman. I
would agree.
I would do many things to entertain an audience, as many of you have seen recently with my crossplay. But yeah, like I really like the casting lifestyle, and also I probably wouldn't be good enough to make it as far as I have casting as a coach. And also just timing was so good. Like we picked up and did Nexus Cup, and at the time I had no idea that they'd be looking for any sort of staff on Blizzard's side for casting. I was just like, hey, this looks fun, I'll do that. And they're like, hey, on the cast Contenders? I'm like, okay.
A little bit of a, you know, kind of whiplash almost, right? Because while I think you were probably amongst the top of your class, it was just a quick turnout. It was like, here we go, we're gonna do this. And again, you and Ham just hit the ground running. It didn't matter, you know, we tried to get permission, they didn't respond. Again, who's gonna respond to some random Westerners? Like let's do it anyways.
He's got 100 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
Who is this?
So it must not, you know, bother them that much that you restreamed it and casted over it. And again, doesn't matter all that much, but I can see where, you know, maybe some organizations would be a little bit, you know, a little bit bothered, maybe.
Yeah, just like,
but it didn't matter to you guys.
Pirating our content.
Like, transformative. Come on, fair use.
Slight proof of concept, which I'll always be thankful for from Dogman. Because obviously Dogman did a previous Nexus Cup as not so much of a serious cast, but more of like
just kind of like a watch along.
Yeah. So and he got recruited for Tespa after that. So I was like,
maybe there's something here.
He didn't get banned. I'm going to take a calculated risk. So,
there you go.
In some ways, you could blame Dogman for me because of that particular little fortuitous bit of evidence that I had. Because actually, it was kind of Dogman again that ended up with me doing Nexus Cup, because I didn't even know the thing was going on until I saw someone make a Reddit post like, is there going to be a Dogman cast of Nexus Cup just like last time? I was like,
what's this?
No, there's not.
But maybe I will.
But maybe there'll be a leg day cast.
And that's one of the things that I loved about you and your guys' like work ethic. I don't know why, just mid-stroke, just try to get that one. With
speaking of THs though, I've got to derail you here.
Sure, go ahead.
And I've got to call out someone. I don't know who at Blizzard who knows that this teeth gap means I'm very bad at pronouncing THs. And they made me cast all the Netherlands games at the World Cup in Paris. Thanks for that one.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an oversight.
You can't do THs. Give him all the Netherlands games.
Jaws, we are playing which team again? Yes, we are. We are playing the Netherlands.
Absolutely. Team NL.
Where
work ethic.
work ethic, yes. Where did that kind of come from? Were you like into sports as a kid? Was this something that, you know, you kind of transitioned over from school? Was this also, you know, maybe you could touch it or tie this into like the leadership aspect of, you know, playing with your, you know, the Wu-Tang clan? You know, is this something that's been kind of a pattern throughout your life?
I think my work ethic is a double-edged sword in that it is
usually is sometimes can
be. It's an extension of my very addictive personality. I am very weak to addiction, so I've never touched a cigarette in my life, and I drink very rarely because I know that those things could easily destroy me. Like, I suffered from terrible MMO addiction when I was playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. Like, over the time I played in that game, I logged like 1.5 years of in-game time.
Wow.
Because just like, I get addicted so hard to things. And the same thing happened with Overwatch when it came out. But that sort of extends to my work ethic. Like, I'd say that I'm kind of addicted to going to the gym. And when I started casting, I became addicted to casting as well. Like, I'd just be desperately seeking out, what can I cast? Are you putting on a tournament? Are you washing your clothes? I'll cast that. I'll cast some laundry, anything. Just let me do a cast. And that's sort of like made me more desperate to find things to do, which is what happened to make me do Nexus Cup as well. Like, so it's sort of a double-edged sword, just having that sort of addictive personality. That means that if I'm working and I'm enjoying it, then I'm never going to stop working.
Do you find that you kind of bury yourself in your work sometimes? Like if
oh yeah, like no one will see me for days. I'm the same way with other games, like strategy games. I'm so bad. Europa Universalis is probably one of my worst ones. Like, I'll open a game of that and like I'll play it for like 20 hours straight. I'm like, should probably eat something soon. I'm like, just 100 more years worth of play. But yeah, I can be
one
very
more
hard
light
to get
year. One more.
Yeah, because like someone will DM me and I'll like see out the corner of my eye. I'll read it and then like, okay, I'll reply to this when I'm done, but I'll never be done.
Yeah. Exactly how, or you know, we got Ham's side of the story of how you guys kind of met, but that was like the first big grassroots like open division duo that I kind of like prescribed. It was like Ham and LEGDAY. That was like premier open division casting. Walk me through your side of the story when it came to Nexus Cup and transitioning to Broadcast GG. You know, walk me through, you know, meeting Ham and how that actually happened.
Right. So I can't actually remember the name of the tournament where I met Ham.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I was just looking for anything to cast. Like, I would cast anything. I would cast short scrims. I actually went into quick play and I casted by typing. I was doing casting for the hearing impaired in quick play, just spectating my buddies. That's how addicted I was trying to craft like the linguistic method by which I would be casting. So I think it was probably some like Scrub Cup thing. Okay. Maybe. It was something. But Ham actually only came in for a single map. We did a King's Row together.
Okay.
She came in to fill for someone who hadn't turned up. I would call them out, but I can't remember who it was. But whoever they were, they made me very upset.
Get called out, whoever you were. You know who you were.
But yeah, my co-cast didn't turn up, so Ham just stepped in. I think they were friends with Ark of Covenant, who was doing production.
Okay. Yeah.
And the second Ham and I cast that out together, I was like, I like the way she casts, and I think we work well together. So I like messaged her afterwards. I was like, hey, do you want to cast some more stuff? Like, yeah, sure, let's get together and do something. And we didn't, because we couldn't really find a thing to cast. And then when I saw that thing about Nexus Cup, I just knew that, hey, if I do this, I know she's got the work ethic to stick to it with me, and I love the way we cast together. So I'm just like, so Ham, do you want to do something really stupid? And
possibly.
Was content.
Yeah. Calculated risks, though, you know.
Yeah, she took it in her stride, and obviously we just went cast after cast in the most scuffed setup you've ever seen. It was like my desktop wallpaper with 2 cutouts for webcam.
Hey, whatever works. Whatever works. It's
still
about
got that
getting
scene
out there.
on my computer.
Really?
Yeah. Oh man, I fanboyed so hard because obviously we were all watching Apex at that time.
Sure.
And Runaway were playing in the Cup.
Yeah.
And Flowervin hosted my channel when they were playing.
Wow, that's dope.
The Flowervin. I was like,
manager of the team that I've been, freaking out about. Would you
insane.
say that you're a big Runaway fan?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Before we recorded, I just had to go take off my Runaway jacket because I get too hot with the with a ring light on me.
That's.
But yeah, Gia was nice enough to get me a custom-made Runaway jacket with my name on the back.
Cute.
So.
You too.
And obviously that's super nice when I'm casting Overwatch Contenders Korea as well. Get to watch those guys go through it. I'm a huge Element Mystic fan as well. And Genji are quickly capturing my imagination. Obviously, I'm fans of all of them because I'm a caster and I just want to see them do well.
Don't pick favorites.
Yeah, don't
biased
pick favorites.
caster.
Don't own merch of any of them.
No stocks here, guys. No conflict of interest here. No.
Going to broadcast CG, obviously Mushu invited back when broadcast CG was like less open. Before we really had the idea, I guess, of what broadcast CG was going to be. I think broadcast CG in its genesis was like an offshoot of the Overwatch University League, which I also played in.
Okay.
And I also casted. Oh, speaking of which, that was a grind, delicious time. I'd compete in the EU side, then I'd stay up another 2 hours. I'd go over and I'd cast the NA side, and that was my first ever casting partner, Kara, who was also on Dopamine.
Remember the name.
That was fun. But basically, a couple of casters from that once Overwatch University League got shut down because can't use the league name anymore. Once that got shut down, everyone sort of like migrated over to that and started up scrim nights instead so they could keep on casting. And Ham and I got invited at some point after we'd been noticed as being like, hey, these guys are pretty good up and coming casters. Not that I'm tooting my own horn or anything. I just guess we were about average. And we were super desperate to make open division work. But at that time, like, people didn't want to be too adventurous because I don't want to take credit for it, but there were no provisions in the rules to allow casting before Evie and I tried to make it work. And the first Western open division broadcast that I'm pretty sure ever happened, unless maybe there was like one in French or something, was Evie and I doing the European Overwatch Open Division Grand Finals between Angry Titans and August and Hungary. And we were begging Morte and we were begging Morte and Radio Boys, like, come on, let us in the lobby, let us cast this. And we're like, I don't know, it's not in the rules, and people can stream snipe. We're like, come on, Morte. And credit to him, Morte was the biggest supporter of getting it casted. Morte knew that, like, if you want to sell players to Overwatch League, which was like just beginning, that players need a profile, players need to be engaging with an audience through their, obviously through their play, and to do that you need an actual broadcast. So Morte was very much about letting us come in and cast. Angry Titans were a little bit more resistant, but they eventually broke. And when they did break, Mushu was asleep. And Mushu's the only one of us who could produce. So we were frantically pinging Mushu for like 2 hours straight. Just like, Mushu,
please wake up.
They said yes. We can do it. And he eventually got on. I think we joined in like 2 maps in. And yeah, then the rest is the first Western broadcast of Open Division, which has now become a storied tradition. Like, I go in and watch Open Division all the time, so I feel like a proud dad.
There you go.
In some cases, I casted this, I played in this. This is where I came from, and it's quite special to me.
Is it nice to know that, you know, the tier 2 and the tier 3 scene are getting a little bit more love? You know, granted, this is more of a trickle down for tier 3, but with, you know, the showdowns and the gauntlet at the end of the year, you know, is that warm your heart a little bit as a former tier 3 lad, as a tier 2 caster? Is that kind of wholesome for you? Yeah,
for sure. Like, the showdowns and the gauntlet are great, especially because it sort of captures like the spirit of World Cup in some senses.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're going to root for your region, right? And I think it gives a chance for a lot of people to become invested in teams they may not see if they didn't have some sort of like geolocated stake in them. Like, we know that World Cup has been a huge draw to a lot of fans who've never watched Overwatch before. It's like, oh, hey, Sweden's playing. I'm from Sweden.
Maybe I'll watch them.
Yeah. Or it's like, hey, Europe's playing against North America. Fuck North America. Yeah. I'm going to go watch Europe kick their ass.
There you go. That kind of brings me to a topic that, you know, not a lot of people are really getting into, and we'll get to Jaws, because I want to transition into, you know, we talk about Eevee and we talk about, you know, how you guys, you know, met up, but I want to talk about Jaws. That's again, 2 different people, 2 different relationships, but we'll get there. I want to talk about Showdown at the moment, because I want to hype this up. I want to get people excited for this.
Oh yeah.
Where do you see this going? Who do you think from Europe has the nod at the moment? Who do you think from NA, if you're familiar, if you've kind of been following? How do you think this is going to pan out?
Currently, Angry Titans looking super good. British Hurricane looking super good. They're both 6-0, and next week I'm going to have the pleasure of casting them go up against each other. So that's going to be interesting. Whoever comes out on top of that is going to be probably the best pick to win Atlantic Showdown from us. But then again, like, everything can change, because the teams we know are not the teams we will know around the time for Showdown, because playoffs is going to change patch, and then potentially we will see the Showdowns change patch. Though I would personally prefer for the Showdowns to be on the same patch as the Contenders playoffs.
Yes.
So that it's sort of like indicative of the strength of the regions of like the end of season 1.
Yes.
Rather than like a season 1.5 kind of break. But yeah, I think that we're going to see quite a bit come out of maybe Gladiators. And obviously Fusion University is always a big one.
Always a good nod, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I want to know more about Bernard's hero pool. Obviously, he's a fantastic diva. What else does he have? I haven't been watching it too closely, because obviously I've got to keep up with 2 regions in the Overwatch League already.
It's rough.
And like, North America has a lot of teams, twice as many as us. Still, it's going to be twice as easy to beat them.
Speaking of the other foot in the opposite end of the pond, you know, you've got 1 foot in Europe and 1 foot in Korea. I want to get your take, or your first reaction to a take I made last night. So in a Discord, which I will not name, but it is public. So again, it's not anything secretive.
You can dig it up.
It exists. A group of people and I were watching the Overwatch League games, and we were talking about, you know, the gauntlet and the, you know, Atlantic Showdown, and I said that I thought that the British Hurricane could possibly be, at the moment, on this patch, one of the best teams in the world, and could possibly just win the gauntlet outright. Now, you are familiar with the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of Pacific, in one of the most competitive regions. So if you take British Hurricane, you put them in Contenders Korea, how do you think they do?
It's a real toughie. The real question is, do they beat Runaway?
Yes, I think that's the hardest one.
I think they could go very close with Gen G. But Gen G, at the moment, they look like fucking monsters.
Do they?
Like, Stalker their Xayah/Hitscan player, some of the best tracking I've seen since Defran, since AKM. Okay. Like, he has got some monster level tracking, and his Xayah's got the game sense to match at the moment. And I don't know what happened. Someone gave Wakidi's Wheaties or something, but Wakidi's also fucking popping off.
Is it?
Like, Gen G's got such a star-studded roster at the moment. Like, I think British Hurricane would lose to Runaway, possibly.
Okay.
But I think they might be able to win 3-2 over Gen G because they've got a bit more seniority.
Sure.
They got a little bit more of that sort of like leadership and tank familiarity. It feels like Gen G now and then feel the need to flex, go over onto those DPS picks.
Which, you know, to be fair, British Hurricane can play very well.
So they can.
It'd be a absolute like slobber knocker of a game, and that's
I said slobber knocker in a class yesterday, and George was like, "What? That's a word," and I was like, "Yes, it's a word."
It's a very strange word. I don't know the history or where I even picked it up. I think it probably was either on. I think
it comes from boxing.
I would imagine so. That was where I was going with it. Some sort of like boxing highlight or. Maybe when wrestling as a kid,
spit or drool, just being punched out of their mouth. It's like knocking the slop. Seems like a reasonable etymological theory.
Like with British Hurricane, I wonder. You know, we've seen them on goats, we've seen them on not goats, and they look pretty solid on either one of those. You know, going all the way back to last season in their match against Giganti. With Runaway, I question what do they look like off of goats. Have they shown that look just yet? Again, I've been trying to keep up with China. I'm watching a little bit of NA. I'm watching you guys in EU a little bit. Korea. There's so much Overwatch.
You just go like
picking them out. Yeah.
Mag has a mad Winston.
Yes, he does.
Mag's Winston is what made me be. They've also recently picked up Decal. Really good Farah.
Okay.
Could be thinking about a new meta. So obviously we've got Hisu and Shui as well, both of which pretty versatile. But the thing is, I'm not that sure about how their DPS play goes. But I think they have the leadership from Mag to make it very effective. Like Mag and QOQ with a Winston D.Va dive, super easy. Obviously you've got Li Jigon, Gangnam Jin. Like, you aren't going to find a more cohesive backline really in Korea. And they just look so strong. Maybe Jofi and Bok may be able to stand up to them, but I feel like they're just way too drilled. And occasionally from British Hurricane, you see like one of the drawbacks of seniority is that you can often think you're right.
Sure.
And I think that often can manifest itself in more hero plays. I feel like there's less of that on Runaway. Like, there used to be a lot more of it when we had Bumper, obviously, who still likes to go for hero plays. But I think this new iteration is far more drilled because they're entering into an esteemed dynasty now.
Yeah.
Like, you go into Runaway, you forget your ego because you're never going to be bigger than fucking Runner. You're never going to get that far in Apex. You're never going to be Vancouver Titans unless you throw away that ego and you just embrace Runaway rather than embracing who you are as a player, I feel.
No, I totally agree with you there, and that is a good almost intangible to definitely reference, and it echoes throughout multiple different teams now. Where I would agree, like old Runaway with Haksal, Bumper again. You see some hero plays. Haksal, that's one of the things that I'll always harp on him for is mechanically, legendary player. Play Genji when Genji wasn't being played. Would pull pocket picks just to counter him. Can be that hero has that hero mentality at times. So far in Vancouver, we haven't seen it as much, or at least we haven't seen it punished in the Goats meta.
Yeah.
With this,
and Dynasties are super interesting as well, because another one that I think is really cool to look at is Milky Man on Giganti, who I knew quite well because we'd played quick play together before. We'd met each other in comp, and I think we'd scrimmed a couple of times as well back in day. And like a lot of people didn't know him. He had a reasonably disappointing run on Mayhem Academy when he was picked up by them, and went across a couple of tier 3 teams here and there. not really any good at all. Sorry, Milky. You go to Giganti, and you take the role of main tank, and you're stepping into the shoes of Fraggy, the Reinhardt. You step into the shoes of LH Cloudy, who was also just so great. He was such a storied main tank in Europe, and then you come in there as Milky Man, you're like, I'm no longer Milky Man, I am the Giganti main tank. It's like an anime where the power of your ancestors flows through you.
Do you think he's gotten a massive buff from being within that kind of legacy squad?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that he's also proven himself to be immune to one of the follies that can happen when players step into those shoes, which is that you find yourself doing very well in more casual gameplay. But the second that the pressure mounts, you're like, oh shit, I'm playing for Giganti in the playoffs. And you fall apart. But Milky Man, when he got to playoffs, he leveled the fuck up, dude. He went to 11. He became Milky Chad.
Not only Milky Man, Milky Chad.
Yeah.
Chad gamers out there. All right. I like it. I like it. Now, doubling back for a second, talking about Jaws. Like I mentioned, you know, we talk about how you and Evie became a duo, and now you've kind of stepped away from that, and she's moved with Boop, and you moved on with Jaws in Korea and in EU. What was that like? Kind of to walk through some first, not first impressions, if you're not necessarily comfortable with that, but, you know, just what was different overall from casting with Ham Tornado and now with Jaws?
Well, I just straight up changed my discipline. I used to be a play-by-play caster. I was more of a talk fast, wax lyrical hype man. And Jaws was far better at play-by-play. So when we auditioned, it just like, I was super deep into Overwatch, and I basically knew a lot of the history of the players. And I was pretty well learned about the game. So like, okay, I'll give color casting a try. And that ended up being what I would stick with professionally with Jaws. I do miss doing play-by-play sometimes, and sometimes you do hear me get in a roar here and there.
Sure.
Just for old time's sake, and to bring the hype up. But casting with Jaws is just like, it's not even the same thing. Because it's just such a different discipline.
Sure.
Compared to when I casted with Evie. Because Evie stuck with color casting, because obviously she was a color caster for me, and now is color caster for Boop. Or I entirely changed disciplines, and I often go back and listen to the first cast I did with Jaws, which was British Hurricane versus Singularity, for those of you who want to seek that up on YouTube. And it was shit. I had no idea what I was doing. I was basically just narrating what happened again, rather than offering any insight, because I knew why it happened, but I didn't really know how to color cast that well. And it took a real amount of grinding through season 1 to really sort of nail not only how I wanted to color cast, but how I wanted to cast with Jaws as well. Because Jaws talks a lot. You've got to control Jaws. Jaws is a beast to be unleashed. And if you let him, he will just talk. He's like Uber. He'll just continue talking until Matt goes, hey,
come back.
Time to slow it down.
Yeah.
You need to reset so that you can go back up to 100 and shock the crowd. So yeah, it was very different.
With that first cast, it was a little rough, right? You self-admitted like you weren't happy with it. So how, you know, doing some self-reflection, how did you go about improving that? Was it somebody that you studied? Was it more of just self-study? You know, how exactly did you improve as a color caster?
I studied my own VODs a lot, and I came to respect that a caster is X parts entertainer and X parts educator. And I'm mixed around trying to figure out how many parts I wanted to be of each. Because obviously I was a play-by-play caster before. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be entertaining. I'm going to be Uber 2, baby.
Sure.
And Uber 2 wasn't a great color caster, unfortunately. As talented as Uber is, Uber 2 not so great.
Could find it a little bit rough to you know, wax those lyrics while you're trying to explain the EMP nature of something. You know?
Yeah, so I went all in basically on educator for a while, because I was like, okay, so my brand's a color caster. I feel like I can very much lean on the fact that I was a high-rated player and that I've got a pretty deep understanding of the game, including like mechanical intricacies. And I took upon myself what I quite narcissistically call the mathematical approach to Overwatch, because one of the things I did as an MMO player is that I studied all the stats of Overwatch, like the DPS, the like damage per bullet, the healing per second, etc. And I would try and weave those in to my cast as much as possible, because in my mind, it was just like when I was writing for my degree. I needed to provide a point, and then I had to provide evidence as well. And I thought that one of the most effective methods of not only giving evidence, but also being informative to an audience would be to cite statistics in the game. And Season 1 and 2, I lent very heavily on that. And I believe around Season 2, just as we were like going in towards the World Cup, I changed my style up a little bit more. I did a bit more of entertainer kind of vibe, because Jaws and I really like the feeling of when I sort of broke from the educator mold and got hype behind him when big plays happened. Because I've got to give credit to someone on Reddit. I don't know who they were, but it sort of shaped the entire way we cast, just describing the way of watching a match with Jaws and I cast as like enjoying a game of Overwatch like on the couch with your mates. So I ended up trying to play into that a little bit, just like trying to make it so it was more like a cozy conversation for the audience to like slip into, like they were a big part of this experience. Like Jaws and I were either side of them, and we were watching Overwatch on the TV. So I added a bit more sort of like entertainment in, like jokes here and there, and Jaws and I would riff off each other a bit more. And that's sort of like where we've settled at the moment. Like occasionally I'll go more towards educational if it's more high stakes matchup, and sometimes we'll go more lighthearted and funny if it's sort of low stakes, or it's an absolute stomping, trying to keep the audience sort of like invested on some level. So yeah, it's been experimental, it's been variant, and I feel like we found ourselves a good place now.
Where would you say that kind of shift during World Cup was when you found yourself the most comfortable?
Pardon?
Like you talk about how you shifted, and you tried to add in a little bit more of the entertainment. You know, trying to, again, you went through that reset, and now you're trying to, get back a little bit of that funny vibe. When did you feel the most comfortable? Was it during that kind of shift?
I think now I feel most comfortable. Like the real boon of like adding in the funny stuff is that George and I just know each other better. And the more you know someone, obviously, the better you can play on their humor. You know what kind of jokes are really going to entertain them. Like for Jaws, he's a meme lord. He loves memes. I'll slip him on here and there, catch him by surprise. He'll laugh out loud. I'll laugh out loud. The audience feels a positive energy, and it's like, hey, that was funny. And now we carry on with the cast. And like learning your co-caster is so important if you want to put on a less rigid and robotic product. Because once you know your co-caster and you can show that synergy just on the fly and off the cuff, that's when the audience really starts to feel involved, and they are the third person in a conversation.
Very interesting. I almost wanna. I wouldn't accredit because it's not my tale, not my story. But do you think that, again, going back to that leadership aspect of playing with a team and just hitting the ground running with that, do you think that's given you a skill set that's helped you improve at almost anything? You've learned how to learn, going back to, how successful you were with, Star Wars: The Old Republic and doing fairly well with your Open Division team. Do you think that that's been very indicative of how successful and how quickly you've found the success that you have in casting is all those learning experiences?
Yeah, I'd say that it definitely contributes, along with being quite academic. So,
speaking of, what did you study in school? You mentioned university.
Yeah, in school for A-level, in college for A-levels, I studied psychology, English literature, English language, music technology, digital music production, ancient history, and biology.
Okay.
And at university, this was just after I sort of like got the agoraphobic sort of depression sort of stage of my life because of trouble with my parents.
Sure.
I ended up going to university remotely from home, and I did an honors degree in English language and literature.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
With a minor in psychology. I keep forgetting.
It's also useful to know.
It was only a year of my life. But yeah, like the methods that I applied there to like hone my own creative writing and stuff, and to critique other linguistic uses definitely did help me in being able to critique the way I cast, because like I'm so used to critiquing any sort of like speech or any oration. So that was quite useful for me. And obviously, like VOD reviewing with my team previously for Open Division games, you like learning to improve is highly underrated.
Yeah.
Like people say, "Oh, I need to improve," but have you learned how to improve yet? Like that, it goes to that argument of like, is it better to get a lot of practice or less but good practice?
Quantity versus quality type of You know, approaching this, you know, Zen mountain, we have, you know, Grandmaster Monk LEGDAY, who, you know, teaches us how to wax on, wax off, you know, that type of stuff. How would you suggest somebody learn how to improve? How would you teach someone how to learn?
I guess self-reflection is probably the first thing. And you've got to enter self-reflection without an ego. And I think one of the best ways to do that would be to take someone whose opinion you respect and trust and watch a VOD with them and have them write down silently what they think of particular points while you orate physically what you think. And then you can compare the two. And it's not necessarily that you will be right or they will be wrong, but it will give you an indication of where potentially your ego or your own judgment will have told you that what you've said is the right thing, or what you've said is the most appropriate thing, and where it may well not be, because that is what you in your knowledge believe, and that's fine. Like obviously, when you're casting, you always say what you think is right. You're never gonna make a misinformed statement unless it's like part of a joke. But it can help you to find out where you are sort of like giving yourself the benefit of the doubt where you don't need to, or where you're giving yourself the benefit of the doubt to a unproductive sort of scale.
Sure.
So I think like you can use the resource of having another person whose opinion you respect as like a check on the ego to begin with.
Do you think that sometimes people not hide behind, but do you think people overutilize the watch alongs with somebody that is, you know, somebody more equipped with more esteem, you know, somebody that has more clout about them, that is a little bit more successful than you? Do you think that people hide behind that a little bit more than they should and don't do enough self-reflection, do you think?
Yeah, I think that can definitely be an issue. And I probably should have given a disclaimer before I said about like watching along with someone else.
Sure.
That this shouldn't be your first port of call. You should always be looking at your own work. And what you want to do is you want to find the part of your work where you can't find anything wrong, or where you find the least things being incorrect. Because that's the part where you aren't identifying problems. So that's the part where you need help identifying problems, if there are any. And one of the best things you can do is, if you want someone to help you with VOD review, is you've got to show that you are as willing to invest time in yourself as you want them to be willing to invest time in you. And I'd say the best way to do that, particularly for casting, is if you are submitting a VOD for review to someone you respect. Say, let's just say I'm submitting a VOD to Uber because I would like him to give me some tips on my color casting. I review the whole VOD myself. I pick 15 minutes, maybe 10, where I think I've done a really good job, or where I can't find many problems. I will then go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I will find whatever problems I can, and I will write those up in a document with timestamps. I'll then find a way to cut down the VODs so that only the 10 minutes that I want relevant are a video, whether it's unlisted on YouTube or whatever. And then submit both my notes, the request for a VOD review, and the 10 minutes that I'd like to go through, as well as ask him if there's a particular time that he'd like to review it with me, so that like we're both on call at the same time. And then you put minimum investment, or rather minimum time investment on the other person's part that is not valuable to the endeavor. Because like you don't want to add barriers to someone helping you.
Sure.
And you don't want to appeal to someone to help you when it looks like you haven't done any work yourself yet. You've got to be invested in helping yourself if someone else is going to be invested in helping you. So I think you definitely need to have shown that you've done a lot of groundwork rather than just like, hey, I did a cast, here's a VOD, could you review it for me?
Yeah. Comes across
like,
as,
why the fuck am I going to use my time on you? Because technically you're my competition.
Yes.
And obviously we're all friends.
Yeah.
It's not like that competitive aspect's actually a thing.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it is actually true.
Technically speaking, you know, you're helping out the next generation, be just taking your job.
And if you're not showing that investment of time in your own improvement, why should anyone else care?
For sure, definitely. And you touch on a really kind of scary topic, because this is something that, again, you know, you need to be nitpicky with yourself. You have to have that artist mentality, whatever you do, whether it be, you know, whatever you want to pursue as a career. To be good at it, you have to kind of fine tooth, run everything you do through that fine tooth comb and find all of the little problems. And then when you start to not find problems, that becomes really scary. Is that something that you kind of, you know, have nightmares about sometimes, is not being able to find those problems and being out of like things to worry about?
Yes, stagnation is terrifying, and one of the things that's also terrifying is like stagnation of self-improvement. Because like if my casts themselves are stagnating, like over just like the course of maybe 2 weeks, I'll feel like, okay, I can at least find where I'm going wrong, and
sure,
I can try and iterate upon that. Like it's just a blip. It's a small bit of stagnation, but I can improve this. But if you get to that stagnating point and you're like, what more can I do? That's terrifying. You're like, then you're pissing in the wind.
Yes.
trying to improve, and you don't know what to do. You might do something stupid. You might go over. I say stupid, but you might do something that like doesn't work out. You might go overly jokey. You might just go entire fucking stat robot and try and make something work. Like, and that's when I would say that you have to deploy that tactic that I talked about before, which sort of like it checks for ego. A lot of people don't even have egos, and that's not really the issue, but it can very much open your eyes to problems you didn't see before. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, it's just like a thing with a lot of gamers like me, is that you can... we aren't exactly the most self-confident division of society. So often we're like, okay, it's all shit. So there's like no ego to play with, but it can still help you be a lot more productive with the way that you are studying your own material.
Definitely. It's it is difficult, you know, while we have different crafts, right? I so align myself with what you're saying.
I'd like to think that I got you involved in broadcast analyzing.
Definitely an avenue in there.
You were my first recommendation.
Oh, thank you.
She was like, hey, we want to do analysis. And I'm like, yeah, fucking Volamel.
Well, you know, again, kudos and many thanks. And knowing that now, it makes, you know, casting, what was it? No blot or 420 blase it. I remember getting that mid hosting. I stepped into the hosting role, and it was interesting.
Volamel, broadcast chameleon.
Yeah, I try to do it all right. It was fun. It was really interesting, and being on the opposite side of the spectrum instead of just watching and writing. Now I was, you know, driving points and trying to get Ham to answer a question she really didn't want to answer. Which again like, was a no-no.
I'm pushing the narrative now. Like the audience doesn't have you've already clicked on the Twitch stream. You don't need to click on my article.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just gonna ram these story points down your throat.
It was something. It was definitely an experience, and if it wasn't for you, then maybe that doesn't happen, and maybe
I'm sure they would have noticed you anyway.
I don't know about
it's not. It's not like you're a low-profile analyst.
We'll see. But I wanted to round out the interview talking about these two different regions and talking about some of the, not a lightning round, but talking about some of the teams that have caught your eye. But first, we have to talk about how we kind of briefly touched on the schedule and EU and Korea and just being a borderline workaholic. But how different would you say the two regions are? Do you see that there is a delineation of metagames? Is there, a role that you've been interested in, like the Reinhardt shield management, or the amount of charges that Korea seems to like to use, the tempo transcendences? Is there a difference in style there that you've kind of picked up on?
Biggest difference is probably just that Korea really want to make Sombra work.
Okay.
Whereas the EU, it's sort of become a meme right now amongst Overwatch communities, oh, we're the best to go, it's forehead. So, and sometimes we're kind of keen to not really go off goats, and if we do go off goats, we get the fuck out.
Yeah,
we're going we're going quad DPS, we're getting double snipers out in here, whereas Korea seems to be a lot more okay, we're just going to take it slow. We're going to take the core of what we've worked on. Mm-hmm. We've worked very hard on this synergy. So we're going to take that, and we're just going to slide in little bits of isomerization here and there. We're just going to bring in the Sombra, or maybe they'll try something else. They'll have an Ana in there instead. So I think that it's a lot less keen on the wholesale swaps, but there are, of course, here and there, the exception teams who'll just bring out whatever the fuck they want and just try and throw it at the opponents. When it comes to Reinhardt's, I haven't really noticed a huge difference. I think everyone's sort of gotten into the groove of the ebb and flow of 3-3 right now, and they know how important their survival is, especially when basically your job right now is get charges on gravitons and keep your Zarya alive.
Mm-hmm. Who would you say, I want to kind of go through some of the best and the worst of both regions. So in EU and in Korea, who would you give the nod to as some of the best teams, if not the best teams, if you can, pick one that is leading the pack, you would say?
Obviously, Runaway is always a favorite when it comes to leading the pack, but sure. I think what's really captured my heart this time around has been Gen G. Just how much they've turned shit around.
After, after last season, it was kind of rough.
After a couple of seasons of just being dead in the water. And also, it's such a good tale of resurgence as well for some of these players.
Definitely. Even the coaching staff.
Wakid's 0.5 fledders for people who are familiar with Soul Dynasty.
Sure.
But he's turned into this monster DPS in his own right. Huyal as well. I'm not a Spitfire fan, so I love to see our guys land somewhere where they're comfy. And obviously, he was with XL2 for a while, and they were second fiddle to Fusion University. But Gen G is really getting some stuff done. He's played D.Va, of course, a lot. That is his signature hero. But he's also getting a chance to swap off onto Sombra as well. And the Zarya, he's making himself into a real little fury.
Interesting.
Yeah, so those guys are super impressive. I'm really happy that they're doing well.
Yeah, it's been interesting to, I'll keep up with at least the scores, and Gen G kind of is taking the place of where I assume GC Busan was going to take after, season after season. They seem to be consistent, and Gen G was kind of middling. They could have had a really cool roster reportedly, and, acted a little too late, and then a lot of those players went to Runaway. And now they have this former StarCraft 2 kind of legend in MMA coming in. And it really is a tale of resurgence. These players, while they weren't cut for the Academy teams, they find their way back home to Seoul. And now they're playing on Seoul's Academy, and things are starting to gel, which is really kind of heartwarming. Especially, you look at the ups and downs that Wu Yal's had, for instance. Going from the highs of, near Dynasty GC Busan, going on the Royal Road, being such a strong pre-micro missiles diva, and then that patch hits and he just plummets. Seeing him build, take the steps to build himself back up, that's really nice to hear, because he was a talent that we kind of lost there for a second.
And there's that like implication of pride as well. Like a lot of people represent an area. Some people represent an area that they're close to. But for Koreans, like representing Seoul, where like 50% of your population lives, you have family there or you live there generally. Like to be able to represent them, I feel was like a real big power for any Korean player, just to feel that kind of pride in what you're doing. And like when you are proud of what you're doing, that gives you such great like job satisfaction. And like that's so important. So I'm super glad that they are flourishing, because it's a double-edged sword again, because if you're representing somewhere that's so close to your heart and you do poorly, that's gotta really weigh on you terribly. Like, hey, I came to represent Seoul in esports, like it's the mecca of esports. It's the greatest place in the world in some cases, like for StarCraft. And for League of Legends, as far as I'm aware. And like if you're not doing very well, if you're like finishing in very disappointing positions, if you don't even make playoffs of season 1, you're like, are we representing Seoul that well? It's got to really do a number on you as a player and as a person.
Most definitely. Like I can't imagine, that's not just your team weighing on you, but that's the personal implications of an entire nation.
Yeah, and a region behind you.
Yeah. That's I can't imagine what those players go through. Even on the main roster in the Overwatch League, they get some hate when they perform well. They're held to a high standard by those Korean fans, because those are the representatives. Those are those are the best of the best that we've put forward. And sometimes they don't, they've been doing well now, so far so good, taking some close games against Gladiators, but they get berated, and I can only imagine it's nearly the same with their academy team in Gen G.
Like a lot of people get berated for poor performances.
Of course.
It's just got to hurt so much more when like you feel like someone's berated me for a performance. Like they said that I did a shit sound barrier, but like there's some nobody from Swindon, so what do I care? Whereas like if you're out there representing Seoul, and then you've got like
a whole invent board just grilling,
all the invent board just like, these guys are representing us and they're fucking up, and they're fucking up hard. Like it's gonna get in your head, and it's not gonna help you out.
No, completely the opposite. More so than maybe what people expect. In that same kind of asterisk, who would you say in both of those regions would you say has been the most improved? Is it Gen G for Korea? Maybe Hurricane for.
I'd say Gen G's most improved.
Okay.
Hurricane, I'm not sure if they're most improved.
Okay.
They're very good. They're incredibly impressive.
Maybe a final like. Dodging of some of these, big name teams in playoffs might see them make that deep run that I think we all know they can make.
I think when I go all the way through it, probably is Hurricane who are the most improved. I was thinking about other rosters, but other rosters haven't really been as stable as Hurricane is.
Sure.
So there's definitely a bench for Hurricane to have improved from. Whereas for other teams, it's a little bit of a clusterfuck here and there, because of course a load of people got picked up for Overwatch League, so they've had to very much mix up what they're doing. So yeah, I'd say the British Hurricane are currently the most improved, especially Numlocked. Numlocked's just been on a tear, dude. Numlocked has this wonderful redemption story.
I think it's been slowly creeping into the kind of community mindset, but you still get people like, I'd rather have Numlocked play over Swan, like as if he's like some sort of bad player right now. I don't know if you've noticed, but British Hurricane are undefeated, and they look damn good. Last season, they still could have made a deep run. Playoff brackets were different. You eat your Wheaties, you put a banana in there, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. They could make a deep run. So this whole Numlocked meme, I think it's gotta go.
Yeah, definitely. Big Brain Barton's got to be the new meme, and not in any sarcastic sense.
No.
No sarcasm. He's getting super good, and I feel like he's definitely like a big force right now. Like,
it's been a pleasure to watch.
UK is doing a really good job of exporting main tanks, and I say no hyperbole when one of the best praises I can give for Unlocked right now is if World Cup happens again, Fusions is not guaranteed to take that main tank.
Yeah, yeah. Things are going to be very different. You know, Christopher's moved on. I think he was probably in the shout back then. I think he was on that team, and then Fusions moved into the starting role.
He was there for Paris.
Yes.
And then once we qualified, we had Fusions come in.
But again, like, not bad main tanks by any means, especially looking at Fusion. You know, reportedly, possibly could have gone to Valiant. You know, people are taking notice on how vocal he is and the intangibles that he brings, and a skill level that competes at the top level. Numlocked brings a little bit of that ish, you know. Can banter with you on stream, brings a little bit of personality to your team, shines a light on him. Not only that,
Numlock's got to stop swearing in these contenders.
Yeah. I did hear a story, you know, from behind the scenes that immediately after that infamous interview, there was a message posted in a Slack that was like, "Hey guys, remember that no, can't be doing that and this."
If you could stop that, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad Fusion's gonna get traded because as an EU caster, like it's kind of like some nice fan fiction that we finally see RCK with Fusions, considering those were the sort of like the two best teams for a long time in EU. Just like the meshing of those, very very nice, very good for our sort of like our circle jerk narrative.
EU over NA, yeah. What, you know, brief thoughts on that RCK Note trade. I think a lot of people are very familiar with Note, and I don't think RCK has really had a chance to show what he's got. A lot of people are kind of writing him off, like talking about his bomb placements, which I've been admittedly talking about, but there again, I still think he has like some very Poco-esque study of how bombs interact and where and how the physics work. But yeah, just kind of your take on RCK. Do you think the trade was, you know, where do you think it was a good trade? Do you think it was a bad trade? How much does this improve Boston, if any?
I think Huck's making bank for Daddy Crap.
You think he's fleeced another team?
Oh yeah, like Note's by no means like getting more value than he's worth. Note's fantastic, but RCK is heavy undervalued, and he's heavy undervalued because of like the DPS pool he brings as well. He's got a fantastic Sombra. He's got a really good Farah as well. Like it's such a deep hero pool that you can play with, and he's going to have really good communication with Fusions because they know each other's playstyles. Not from playing together, from kicking each other's ass season after season. They've been going at it for a long time. And I imagine they've been ringing for each other at some point. I think RCK definitely going to be one of those big developmental talents that Boston's going to have picked up. Nope, probably a good pickup for Dallasfield. We don't know yet. We'll have to see when they play. Do they play today, maybe? The recording on what, Friday evening?
I think it's Friday. No, today's Saturday. Today is Saturday.
It
is Sunday for you, sir.
Well, when I'm here in Kiev, I just can entirely forget what the days are when I'm not doing contenders.
The esports lifestyle, man, it'll butcher your sleep schedule, which impacts where you think calendar. You are. Yes. Yesterday it was like I had a tangent. I had an article due. Somebody wanted something by Friday, and I'm like, all right, it's Saturday. I gotta get my interview with LEGDAY later today. It's 8 a.m. I should be getting to sleep. All right. I still need to write that piece. Oh, that's not good. Like you just completely lose track of where you are in the week, and it can be a blessing and a curse sometimes. It's great that I could just wake up and watch Overwatch, and then
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like indicative of like not having the regular 9 to 5.
Yes.
But like it's like you can sort of like track the day, but like how long it is till Friday, or how long do I have to go back to work on Monday?
It is nice to say like, I can work whenever I want. How sexy does that sound? But you can't lean on that for very long because it's like, okay, well, if you can work whenever you want, when are you working? So you while you don't have a strict schedule,
I hyper prefer it to what I was doing before casting when I needed money. I was cleaning toilets at Dyson, the guys who make the vacuum.
Homie, I'm less gross, but right there with you.
Their HQ is not too far from where I live at home with my parents.
Okay.
So when I needed a quick job, that was a quick fix for me.
Hey, you know, me and DeFrand were kindred spirits. I spent some time in the service at the old Mickey D's. So
Desert you as well. He was a burger.
Oh, really?
flipper.
Okay. Hey, yeah. I mean, hey, I graduated quickly. I was put on the cash register and I killed that ish. They wanted me as a manager. I'm like, nah, dog, not for me. I don't want that responsibility. You can't put that shit on me. Don't put that mess on me. No, I left that life years ago.
I don't want to join for McDowell High.
Exactly. So I align myself again, less gross in some aspects, but I know what you mean. I don't trade this for the world. You know, we're still trying to make it work. So I definitely understand.
It's definitely the dream.
It is the dream, and you know, as we kind of close out, do you have any kind of predictions for the showdown? Are you excited for the gauntlet? You know, just, you know, where are you in life right now? And, you know, how is leg day? You know, we a wise man once said not to ask people that at the beginning. So I'm asking you at the end, so not to get slapped. Praise be to Monte Cristo. How are things?
Things are intense. Like, I never anticipated how much work doing 2 regions would be.
Sure.
Because, like, I've got to stay on top of it all. And also, like, I'm addicted to social media. So I'm like, hey, I want to live tweet all these hour games.
Sure.
Like, I'm 2 hours ahead of GMT, so we start at 2 in the morning. I guess I'm just going to go to sleep at 9 a.m. now. So that's a bit of a mess, but it's freaking awesome. Like, at the moment, I am just living Overwatch esports. There's like so little time for anything else in my life. I feel so sorry for my girlfriend. Sorry, GA. We do what we can.
It's nice that, or let me ask you this then: do you find it a blessing for the relationship that you guys are kind of in the same career field to a degree? You kind of are understanding.
Sure. Yeah, like. And it's super nice for both of us to be able to understand the intricacies or like the demands of our respective careers. They say that people in show business only ever date other people in show business because they're the only people who really understand what you're doing. And Gio's been a real trooper about me being out here for 2 months, which obviously isn't ideal for us. And I went back there for a week, which was probably one of the best like 4-day stints of my life, just to be back there.
Unwind, de Overwatch. It's important. It's almost as important as working hard, you know.
Well, that said, while we were there, I couldn't do Overwatch at all because it was also the Stage 1 finals.
Ah, beautiful. So it was gotta keep going. Vacation, right, stop. Guys?
Yeah, big vacation. Yeah, things are like hyper good for me right now.
Good.
Life is shows no signs of slowing down currently.
Only up from here, huh?
Hopefully,
a third region is that on the horizon? Are we picking up Pacific by chance? You giving Pixie and the crew a run for their money?
I don't want to compete with Pixie and Avril. They're too good.
Fair enough.
This isn't going to be an indication on how I think China's casters are now because I don't want to compete with them. But I'd love to do a game of China. I think Guangzhou Academy is one of the most interesting teams I've ever seen on paper.
That's
I'd love to cast one of their games.
I will say I've caught a couple of their VODs. You know, on paper I was excited to see them play, and when I'm seeing their play now, I'm not so excited. You know, it's been a little bit messy, a little bit disjointed.
How's Billy?
That's one of the teams I'm actually excited to actually get to dive into. I've seen a little bit of Lingon. I'm fairly familiar with some of their players. They seem to be doing very well. Billy, you know, on the standings look well, but I don't know exactly what their style is, where they're good. I haven't, you know, that's the deep dive on the VODs needs to happen soon, and maybe it'll happen in this off.
Just gonna delve deeper into that.
Yeah, something like that. Hey, it's right at the bottom. As we kind of round out the old interview, I'd like to give the little soapbox that I have to the guest, and anything you want to say, shout outs, plugs. You know, the Twitter is below you, so if you are interested in you know, I'd say high quality shit posting. Definitely give LEGDAY's Twitter a look.
That's some turd with sprinkles on it shit posting. Yeah, and,
you got
and
some
also
gems, I'd say.
My number of social media followers directly correlates to my self-worth as an individual, so be sure to follow me there.
He wants to see that number grow, you know. It's like that karma on Reddit, you know. It's just nice to see the number increase.
I'm gonna get called a fucking shill, but I mean, probably aren't gonna watch this anyway. But thank you to Blizzard for taking one hell of a fucking chance on some nobody who pirated a tournament, and
they like that gumption, you know.
In a role they'd never done before. I'd like to think it has vaguely paid off.
I think so. I think you've kind of quickly become a voice of the tier 2 community as much as anybody has been. You know, you're now competing with the same casters that you kind of grew up in Overwatch listening to. So I think that only speaks to how good you are and how good you and your duo is.
Thanks to my girlfriend Gia for putting up with the trials of a life of being with a caster who's away for 2 months at a time. It's not easy, but we get through it, and I'm eternally grateful for that.
Anything else? Nobody else?
I definitely like to say thank you to Sam, even though she's not on Overwatch Contenders anymore. Like, when I got to season 1 of Contenders, Sam was my roommate, and the other 3 were upstairs. They all knew each other. They'd all done stuff like Manure before in the UK, and I didn't know who anyone was. I'd never been to a studio before. I'd never traveled alone before.
Sure.
I'd never been paid for an esports job. No one had ever wanted me to do one. I always just sort of like thrust them upon myself. And Sam was an awesome big sister, a really good friend to me, and at times when it was required, a really good mentor as well. Good. So thank you, Sam, for your guidance. Tech Girl, you'll remember her from last season. The big sister that I never had and continue to want.
Do you guys still kind of keep in touch every now and again?
Yeah, she's incredibly busy, which I'm very jealous of as well. She's been to Tokyo to do Pokemon stuff and Netflix stuff. She's done stuff with Nintendo and Splatoon. And hopefully she's coming to the UK at some point so that we can go and get coffee or something. It'd be really nice.
Very cool. Good for her. She was one of the people that it was sad to see the budget cuts kind of seem to hit. You know, when restructuring of Contenders happened, it was sad to see her go because she was good.
She was, and she continues to be. Hopefully there'll be some space for her in Overwatch. Like, I'm hoping there'll be some sort of third-party thing which she can get involved in the winter, because I don't know anything. There's no leaks here, because it's just wild speculation. There's got to be something happening between October and March, right?
I'd hope so. Something, at least.
There's got to be something between Gauntlet and Open Division.
Somebody's going to need a job, and we've got a couple names that...
I need to eat.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And again, you know, while this has been a skimp, you know, the top of the surface level of the history, you're more than welcome if you are interested to come on back and you know, delve even further. You know, gotta love that product placement.
Gonna grab some shovels.
There you go. So yeah, thank you again for coming on and sharing a little bit of your story and having a chat and catching up. It's been very, very nice. Definitely follow LEGDAY. Wait, let me go over here. It's below his face. Go and follow him and check out all of his content. And you know, you kicking up that YouTube anytime soon?
I'm gonna do something on YouTube when I
got some time.
Actually record stuff. Yeah, like right now I'm so low on time. And obviously I'm like roaming with people, so I don't want to be waking him up by doing audio recordings and like Blank sits there when he's awake. So like I can't be like, Blank, I need you to be quiet for approximately 2 hours and not do anything so I can record a video, okay?
Cheers, thanks. I definitely can understand that. But this is gonna wrap up here. You know, we've been beating your ears for long enough. We will soon have an episode 2 of this. I want more questions answered. So if you'd indulge me, yes, that'd be beautiful. Again, thank you for coming on, and thank you the listeners for taking a view and listening and learning and all that good jazz. And we'll see you in episode 17 of Delve Further. Thanks for watching.